to talk about is why video will be everywhere, about anything and for everybody. So, first reason, the end of one of the biggest technology booms of all time is coming to an end. So, we're forecasting that annual sales growth in the number of smartphones is going to decline from 30% in 2014 to around 3% in 2020. Now, many businesses would be happy with 3% growth, especially when they're shifting 2 billion units a year, but clearly smartphone investors have different expectations. So to counter this slowdown, the likes of Apple, Samsung are also going to try and piggyback on one of the greatest forms of mass media entertainment ever made, TV. So they're heavily investing, pushing devices where video is a key feature. So we're forecasting that there will be 1.4 billion tablets in use, nearly 1 billion smart TVs, 500 billion connected TV set-top boxes, over 1/3 of VR headsets, 220 media streamers and video-enabled headsets, wearables, to the tune of 10 million. Now that's 3.5 billion new types of screens in use, but you'll notice that that's still 1 billion short of the 4.6 billion smartphones that are in use. So smartphones are going to have a huge impact on the video market, which will hopefully become apparent throughout this presentation. So all these devices in the market are also being harnessed by various parties to disrupt two of the biggest consumer markets in the world, TV and digital advertising. So you can see the chart on the left about the outlook of the US TV and video market, and it's a pretty huge market, with the pay TV market alone worth well over 90 billion a year in revenues. But you can also see that pay TV isn't really growing. We're not so pessimistic as some commentators about the outlook for TV advertising. If you attended last year, you know that we feel it's very much a transitional technology. It will evolve both technically and commercially. And also, advertisers and brands will still believe that it's a very powerful medium to reach and influence consumers. But we are even more optimistic about the outlook for OTT video advertising. So you can see that that's going to grow more than TV advertising, both in terms of its compound annual growth rate, but also in absolute terms, growing by 15.8 billion. Now, video is also going to prove a very effective weapon in the battle between Google, Facebook, Snapchat, and others to dominate the digital advertising market. So digital advertising, again, another huge market, but also extremely rapidly changing one. So you can see here how video advertising will rise in its share of revenue or ad spend from less than 5% in 2010 to more than 25% in 2020. You can also see the influence of mobile video in that. So mobile will account for 2/3 of online video advertising by that period. All this activity is going to have a huge impact on operators' networks. So we strongly believe that operators will have to evolve both their technology and their cultures to become ever more video-centric. So you can see on the left that internet traffic will not only triple over the next 5 years, or 10 years, sorry. No, that is 5 years. But also that video will play an incredibly large part in that. So it will account for 77% of all internet traffic by 2020. Now, most of that will be over fixed broadband, but you can see that actually a huge proportion, 1/3, nearly, will actually be mobile traffic, because it's going to be generated by smartphones, whether that's over the cellular network or over the fixed network via Wi-Fi. Now, this is something that telcos should worry about, not just for engineering reasons, because what we've found is that great video experiences are becoming increasingly essential for connected consumers worldwide. So last year we surveyed 15,000 consumers in 30 markets in both the developed and emerging world, and we found that up to 80% of people on average were watching online video regularly. But less than half described their experience of online video as good or excellent. And that's going to be a huge problem for operators if they don't fix that, because consumers that have poor video experiences are twice as likely to churn. So operators really need to realise that video is really their lifeblood, even if that video is being delivered by a third-party OTT service provider. So who likes selfie sticks? A massive show of hands. One newspaper commentator called them the wands of Narcissus, which may be accurate, but we think they reflect a more fundamental trend that people like to capture and share memories and precious moments. But whether or not you buy into that, personal video capture is going to be a huge area of investment and innovation. So you're going to see 360-degree and VR cameras, wearables, drones that you can not only fly with a video camera on, but will actually follow you around. Say you're going down a mountain or on a mountain bike, the drone will follow you and take footage. We'll see connected toys, and also the emerging category of social robots, a bit like Follow Me drones, but more attuned to video conferencing, social networking, and other forms of communication. Finally, virtual cameras. So these are cameras that exist in the digital world to, say, capture video games footage. Interestingly, these cost virtually nothing, and there can be an infinite number of them. So we think that video of digital worlds will become increasingly important. So one thing to note is that actually the vast amount of innovation and investment is going to go in personal video capture is going to go into smartphones. So image capture already is and increasingly will be the way that smartphone vendors compete. One consequence of all this investment in personal video capture technology is that TV or video will not only be everywhere, it will also be about anything. So whenever a new form of content arrives, often people are quick to say, why would anyone watch that? Yet in recent years, we've seen a vast array of content succeed that seems designed to confound the older generation. So esports, toy unboxing videos, live streaming of people eating food. And I'm with Andy Warhol in believing that people will look at anything. If you set up a camera, point it at something, you will find an audience for that. And we really strongly believe that these personal video technologies will not only enable people to capture and share more technologies, but also to find an audience, and in some cases, a very profitable one. So I think probably one of the big debates we'll find, though, will be about value. So although we'll see the growth of a lot of these niche forms of content, in some cases they will attract millions, possibly hundreds of millions of users, people will say, well, the viewing's not good quality like proper TV, or the audience isn't a good audience, and ultimately content isn't of any value. But we recently did a study looking at the cost per minute of, let's say, a blockbuster movie, and you're looking at millions per minute, and if you look at the content at the other end of the spectrum, you're talking in a few dollars. So we really think this is going to be an important debate. So in case you're wondering about the picture, Andy Warhol was a prophet in more ways than one, in that he also predicted the superhero reboot and the superhero ensemble film with his 1964 film, Batman Dracula. It's been described as campy, bizarre, and incoherent, which brings me to my second point. So if you can really capture video, share it, watch it really easily, how do you make it worthwhile for both the viewer and the creator? How do you make sense of it all? Well, we think in three ways. First and foremost, social context, so feeds which ensure that the right content is shown to the right person at the right time. That will be driven by algorithms. Special effects, So augmented reality, from Instagram filters to this Snapchat lens which turns your head, or in this case Donald Trump's head, into a giant taco. This lens was used 24 million times in one day. Finally, storytelling. So recently, 20th Century Fox teamed up with IBM to produce a trailer for their forthcoming film about AI, using AI. So they fed it all of the content, and then it came up with a pre-edited clip. So we really think these technologies that enable people to produce better, more compelling videos and content will increasingly come in the hands not just of professionals, but also of consumers. But we also really strongly believe that video and monetizing video will be about more than just mass media, entertainment, and broadcasting and on-demand. So I think this quote from Evan Spiegel, the CEO of Snapchat, really sums it up. What he's saying is that when people are sharing photos and presumably videos on Snapchat, they're communicating, they're talking, sometimes even in real time. And so, in a sense, he's saying that the chat is just as important as the snaps to Snapchat. The two are inextricably linked. So we can also see how a number of apps are actually changing how we communicate, how we talk, how we see, and how we think about both our inner and outer worlds. So 3 examples here. The first from Periscope. So a marketing agency set up a camera trained on a puddle in the north of England, and it attracted over 500,000 views. And the interesting thing was people were tuning in not just for the unexpectedly compelling video of people leaping across this puddle making various decisions about how to traverse it, but the chat that accompanied it. You know, the actual chat became part of the event. It was just as important. The two were intertwined. The second example is Snapchat Stories. So perhaps the most powerful way to explain this collection of your daily videos is that many people see it as my ability to see through other people's eyes. It's the answer to one of the most common questions we ask our friends. What have you been up to? Or if we're thinking about live streaming, what are you up to? And then finally, it's changing how users of these apps communicate. So if you're a Twitter user, you might have seen in your feed increasingly people using short videos or clips to underline, emphasize, or express what they're thinking. So a scene from a movie, someone showing surprise or disgust. And one provider in Japan, Line, has taken this even further. So it actually produces a series of videos around a range of popular characters it's created, Brown the bear and Coney the rabbit, and then it turns those scenes from those videos into stickers and emoji, which users then use to communicate their feelings. So in fact, the video actually becomes part of their visual language. I think what's really important for media companies in monetizing this is that Line not only sells these sticker packs and emojis to users, but it also offers brands the ability to feature in these videos, and so feature in the sticker packs, and so feature in people's visual language. Extremely powerful example of word of mouth, you could say. So we believe that the intersection of communications and media will be extremely important. So we've been working on a project looking to scorecard the various different messaging providers and how they will become, or their potential to become, channels for media and media monetization. So you can see here that the model involves an array of inputs. This is a very high-level view with reach, media potential, and advertising potential, and then the red dot is the score. And what you can see is that actually the largest and well-known platforms aren't necessarily the ones best placed to succeed. So it's not just about user base, it's about fundamentally rethinking what you can do with media and communications. So we also believe, though, that aside from those providers, a number of tomorrow's video-first disruptors have yet to emerge. So we think it's very likely that Facebook will achieve its ambitions to become a video-first company in the same way it achieved its ambition to become a mobile-first company after starting life on the desktop internet. But we also believe that a number of companies will emerge that will spot opportunities that these companies haven't, in the same way that Snapchat spotted an opportunity around being mobile-first that Facebook didn't. I put Periscope there because it's one of the first companies that really took a social/mobile/video first approach, but we don't think it's going to dominate the market and say the way Facebook has with social first and Snapchat has with mobile. So when we say that, often customers ask us, well, what should I be doing to succeed? And we have 6 key points. I've touched on many of them already. I'd like to dwell on the last 2, being respectful. So we think, for example, that Snapchat has been successful because it's actually very mindful of respecting its users' privacy and comfort and how they want to communicate. We also think that apps need to be fun, and dare I say, even silly. I think you'll see some of the most successful apps emerge with very specific, very odd, very bizarre use cases. And we think you can actually look and see where some of the larger, the grown-ups, the elder statesmen of the digital world have failed to take advantage because they've been tried to be too broad, too utilitarian, too serious. So you don't have to be an app developer or a startup to take advantage of video first. We believe that all companies across the TMT value chain and the consumer market have a stake. So for content owners, being video first is not just about finding a new channel to distribute your existing content, it's about developing new concepts to engage with customers and also an area to discover new talent. Service providers have a big question about whether they should buy, build or partner to harness the potential of video first. And we think probably one of the most sensible route is to take a stake. Then you get a deep insight into these companies' roadmap and also preferred partner status, because these companies will need partners. Network operators, who should you collaborate to enable great video experiences? So as mentioned, video, whether your own or third party, will be part of your lifeblood, and you need to ensure that it flows as easily as possible. And technology vendors, what role can you carve out? I mean, one thing that technology vendors will have to accept is they might not necessarily be building the fundamental components or the core of these new video platforms. Their role might actually be enabling their traditional customers to connect and harness these new platforms. Finally, to entrepreneurs and investors, and by this I mean anyone in any company who's looking to drive new opportunities. Are you really pushing the boundaries of what video can be and do? Because I think we're only really just seeing the beginning.